Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom. And today I'm taking part in a Kylie Bertucci's international project showcase. And I did one of these a while ago and had some really positive feedback. So thank you for that. And I thought the theme is each month is thank you. So you get the chance just to post and your card on there and ask people to vote for it, and if they do, you get to take part in a blog hop later on, which is just really good fun. But it's a lovely blog showcase, or a card showcase, really, to give you inspiration for thank you cards. I think we all need thank you cards. And I've come up with one that I thought was a bit of fun, and really it came about because at a recent team meeting, I got given some of these lovely Slimline envelopes, which are in the annual catalogue on page 137, and they're lovely DL, but they're just that little bit prettier, and you've got some lovely patterned paper on the inside already printed, and they're just a Slimline kind of, they're just slightly different than a DL anyway. Or are they? They're a standard size. Anyway, whatever size they are, they're about a third of a sheet of A4, depending on where you are. And obviously being in the UK, ours is slightly shorter than the US, hence we've got a bit more space, but we've got slightly longer card. So I thought it was about time I did another DL card, and to make it a little bit more interesting, I just created this pretty zigzag, as you can see here. Created my own DSP for this section on some cardstock, and I just thought it was a really nice way to kind of add a extra note, and you've got obviously space to add a note there. You could add a panel in here if you wanted, and just to show off this lovely stamp set that is going soon. So just a reminder, this if it hasn't sold out before then, will be retiring at the end of June. So if you want it, grab it now. I love the font of the happy birthday. You know, it's so useful. Just to note, thank you, time for a happy dance. I think that's great fun. And sending a card instead of a text is one I've used on quite a few cards. So the envelopes come in three colours. We have soft succulent, we have smoky slate, which is, I'm about to use one of those, so I'll show you in a minute, but there we go, with that lovely pattern on the inside, and then some basic white. So you know, you could really, you know, jazz that up as you want to, and the white one has some black and white patterning on the inside. But they are, you know, great staple to have in your arsenal. Make a slightly different size card, and that's always nice, I think. Do something a little bit different. And as you can see, I've just stamped simply on the outside of the envelope, so that'll then fit in. So let's get started. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you like this card, please follow the link and vote for me, because I'd love to take part in another blog hop. So that's our card. So I've used Smoky Slate and Blushing Bride for that one. So I'm just going to use the same colourway but reverse it for this next one. So instead of a Smoky Slate base, I'm going to use Blushing Bride. And you're going to need to trim your cardstock down slightly. Now this I have trimmed the length so that it will fit for US cardstock as well. So I'm just trimming that down. I've just noticed I've got a little bit of I'm just trimming. I've got a little bit of a curl on the end of that corner, so I'm just going to trim both ends. But I'm going to trim it down to 27 centimetres, like so. And then I'm simply going to score at 9 centimetres. Just pull that down so you can see it. So 9 and at 18 centimetres. And then on this first section, I'm going to cut at 10.5 centimetres. And I'm just going to cut down to that first score line. Now if you can't quite see it, lift up, have a little look, and then just cut until you're happy you've got to that score line. Then we're going to cut diagonally across here. So all I'm going to do is fold my cardstock, my bottom section, out of the way so that I can easily see where that is. And then I'm going to, as you can see, the majority of my cardstock is to the left. I'm lining up the top and the score line on the next section with the track. Hopefully you can just about see that, and just keep that in place and then just cut diagonally. So you're going to end up with a piece that looks like this. Now if you get any raised edges from your cutting blade, just run your bone folder along those and they will just smooth those out. So then that's your card base. So just concertina fold that, reinforce them in both directions. So there we've got our card base ready to go. So now we want to get a nice layer for this section and for the other sections. So for the back section, I'm going to cut a piece of card that is, it is 8.5 by 20 centimetres. Okay. Oh, I forgot to cut it out. Okay, that's going to make my measurements out slightly, because I did trim it down to 20.5. Let me just have a look. Okay, I might want to. Okay, I've left it at 21. I'm just going to have to adjust things very slightly on that. Oh no, I'm okay. 20. It is by 21. I'll stop and start again. It is by 21 centimetres. It is this piece that's 20.5, and it's 20.5 by 8.5 centimetres. So that's our panel for the middle. We're then going to want a piece of basic white to stamp on for the front, and that is 8 by 9.5 centimetres. So that's my front, and I'm going to want a piece of two pieces of smoky slate for the inside. So this is going to again be cut at 8.5 centimetres. So this is my large piece, and I'm going to cut that down to 20 centimetres. It might seem a little bit odd, but believe me, it will work. So that's by 20 centimetres, and then I want another piece then that is 8.5 wide by 10 centimetres, and that's for the very front. So we've got our layer here to go on, and then we've got our layer for the middle. Now you'll notice that layer for the middle obviously is a square, and we have an angle. So you could measure it, but I find the easiest way that I've sort of kind of developed recently is to pop my card inside the flap, and with a pencil or an erasable marker just mark that diagonal. And that means if you've cut a diagonal that's slightly different, it's still going to get a nice angle. And then you just line up those two marks in your track and cut. Any marks that are left, just take your eraser to them. And now you'll find you have a piece of card that has a lovely margin across that top edge. Okay, so now we can get on with our stamping. So I'm going to want my three pieces of cards, the piece for the back, the piece for the front, and my centre section. And what I'm going to do is for that top section, as you'll see on my original card, the leaves are actually coloured. So I wanted to pick up that soft succulent with a slightly different shading. So all I'm going to do is grab my Blushing Bride, and then I want a bit of polished pink, which is my deep pink, and I want my soft succulent. This is a technique you can use on pretty much any stamp. The first thing you're going to do is ink that up well with your Blushing Bride. And then I'm going to come in with my chamois and just using a corner, I'm going to just dab away at those leaves. I'm not bothering to dab away on the flower because it's pink, so I'm just going in with a deeper colour, so that isn't going to matter. So if you're going in with a deeper colour in the same colour palette, keep it the same. I'm just using a sponge dauber there, and then sponge dauber those leaves just to give a little bit of interest. And then I'm just going to come in and stamp that across that top corner like so. And there you've got a sort of a really sort of two-tone image. Now you could repeat that if you wanted to down at the bottom to add a bit of interest. And then I'm just going to come in with my smaller flower and again just add a little bit of pink onto the side there. So that's my layer for the inside. Now for this large one here, I'm just going to do some tone on tone stamping. Now if ever you want to do that on a card and you haven't got the exact colour, use Versamark and that will give you the same kind of effect. So if I just grab a scrap of paper, only because I'm being frugal with my sheet, and I'm just repeat stamping this lovely large floral image all over that section. And if you wanted to, you could obviously infill with the little stamps. You could come in on the edges. You could overlap it more if you wanted to. So that's my next layer. And then now I'm left with this pretty layer at the bottom for my sentiment. And you'll see from my original card, we've actually got an area that's open there. So all I've done is taken a good old post-it note. And you see here, it's the same one I've used. And I'm just going to make sure I try and line that up just by eye, like so. Get my Blushing Bride again. Now again, you could come in with Soft Succulent if you wanted to. I just like pink and grey together. And I am starting from the centre on this and working around first. Now what you could also do, which I didn't do on my previous one, but we could do, is you could come in and add a bit of extra detail to get a sharper edge by coming in with a sponge dauber. I grab my Blushing Bride one. And you could just add a little bit of an edge, and I'm not even sort of blending, I'm just dabbing around that edge, and then you'll see you get a sharper edge to your aperture. And then up to you, but you could either use Blushing Bride or you could use the polished pink to make it stand out, but you just pop your thank you in the centre there. If you wanted, you could always add a few sparkles to that. She says, well, you could if I'd got some to hand. Here we go. What have I got? Here we go, a couple of opal rounds. There we go. So you can just grab these. You take your pick. Which is rather appropriate, I suppose, given that Kylie is Antipodean and the opals obviously come from Australia. So there we go. That's rather nice. Some opals, and then we're ready to just finish constructing our card. So if I grab my glue, just add a small amount. You don't have to go mad with Tombow, it sticks really, really well. So you can just put a narrow bit around the outside edge. Actually, around the edge would be a good idea. Just with a point, make sure you come right up to the top. And the beauty of Tombow is it does give you that little bit of wiggle room. Always good when you're card making. Particularly if you're doing something where there's a kind of a point or something that's a little less straightforward than just a square layer. Of course, you could always drop it, as I've just done, and throw it about. There we go. front panel. Again, just add that to the front. Make sure you orient it correctly. So there we have our pair of cards. There we have my stamped envelope with soft succulent, and with my basic grey, my smoky slate even, I can just come in and again use that smoky slate that we used on that middle panel just to finish off that envelope. So there we have it, a couple of quick thank you cards using flowing flowers, and if you'd like to purchase them before they retire, hop along to my blog at flutterbyheidi.co.uk or click on the description box below this video, the little down arrow, and you will find, it's around about this corner here, you'll find a link to all of the items that takes you to my shop as well. So thanks for watching, come back soon, bye now.